Welcome back to Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast presented by the Women in Propane Council, where bold voices, big ideas, and brilliant guests in the propane industry take center stage. I am Freddie Ridler, and we're diving deep into leadership that inspires, empowers, and transforms. And now joining me in the studio is my incredible host, the one and only Jessica Balderston.
Thanks, Freddie. Today we're joined by two incredible leaders from Superior Propane, Kimberly Saxton and Erin Walls. Kimberly serves as VP of Customer Experience, leading large-scale customer-focused relationships, while Erin leads HR operations, shaping the people strategy and culture behind that growth. Together, they bring a powerful perspective on how leadership shows up for both customers and employees during times of change. We're excited to dig into their journeys, lessons learned, and what leadership looks like through their lens. Kimberly and Erin, we typically kick off our podcast with a simple question. What does leadership mean to you, and how has it changed over the years? And Kimberly, we'll start with you on that one.
Oh, great. Thanks, Jessica and Freddie. Really excited to be here. We've been looking forward to this and following the podcast. So leadership is about aligning teams around a shared vision and enabling people to deliver results by creating the conditions for high performance. That means setting a clear vision, supporting teams around it, and then equipping them with the tools, data, and autonomy to execute with confidence. I think today's leadership model has shifted. It's less directive, more about clarity, accountability, and adaptability. And in a fast-moving, data-rich environment, leaders need to be connectors and accelerators. We're responsible for removing friction, making priorities visible, and ensuring teams have the insight and support to make those timely decisions. I focus on building a culture where people are empowered to act and where performance is measured, not just assumed. That includes intentional direction, defining success metrics, and using data to drive continuous improvement. When people understand the why behind the work and see how their efforts move the needle, they're more engaged and innovative and invested in their results. My core philosophy is centered on win-win-win outcomes achieved with employees who are motivated and supported, customers who experience real value, and a business that grows sustainably. That's the leadership model I believe in, one that blends service with strategy and culture with accountability, insights, and results.
I love everything about that, Kimberly. I put an asterisk down to your comment about the why behind the work. And I feel like that is such an important thing to highlight is people want to be empowered and they want to be driven and they want to have that vision, but they can't do that without understanding the why. So being able to lead a team with having that why behind them, I think is just so powerful. So thank you for that comment. Erin, same question to you. What does leadership mean to you and how has it changed over the years?
Great. Yeah, thanks again. Really excited to be here. I think this is at least a year in the making now at this point. So happy to spend some time with all of you. To me, leadership is really means taking responsibility, not just for outcomes, but for people. And it's so important to show up and be present as well as teaching and learning. I think leadership is built on trust, earned through consistency, honesty, and respect. My goal is to create a positive environment where my team feels confident in what they know, supported in what they do, and motivated to succeed. I think over time, these last couple decades, leadership has really shifted from like a boss doesn't inherently make you a leader, and you don't have to be a people manager to be a leader. And so there's a fine line where I think you can be a people manager and a leader, but you can also be a wheel in the cog, right? A member of the team and be a leader within the team as well. And just by having the tagline of boss or manager is no longer the equivalent of a leader.
Yeah, it definitely has changed quite a bit where we hear that from podcast to podcast to podcast of it used to be delegating was the leader. Now it's a teamwork. It's the wheel, right? It's the people person. It's the ones behind the scenes. It's everyone who kind of comes together and leads a project or a team. I love Kimberly. I made a note. My highlight was the clear vision, right? I love that you said leaders have that clear, focused vision of the outcome. And Erin, you said that positive environment, and those come up quite a bit as well. And it's always fun to hear about that because being a leader, if your team, they don't know a clear vision of what you're trying to do, it's hard to stay positive. So they work really hand in hand a lot. So great answers on the leadership. Now, Jess and I are going to kind of go back and forth throughout this podcast, and we always start now with just kind of a fun question, maybe a sentence or two on a reply, and then we'll kind of get back to the podcast, the little tougher questions again. So we'll start with you, Erin, and then Kimberly, same question for you. What's one small habit or routine that you rely on to reset or recharge during a busy workday?
During the day, definitely taking a few minutes to get up, grab some water, do whatever it is. I'm a big pacer when I talk and when I am trying to figure out what I want to say or convey. And so I find myself a lot of times walking around, if I'm home, my house or my office or whatever the case is. And that helps me to kind of focus and align my thoughts and recalibrate back to whatever the task is at hand. The other thing I try to do is not multitask too much. I mean, we all kind of do it, whether we try to or not. But in the moment, I try to prioritize my tasks to make sure I'm giving 110% of where my brain and focus needs to be at any given time. And that tends to allow me to accomplish tasks faster than trying to do them all incrementally at the same time.
I think I needed that reminder today for sure. That's a great piece of advice.
For sure. And do you find it hard sitting and doing a podcast? I like to stand, but I sway back and forth way too much, and they don't like that when they do the edit work. So I have to sit now, and like I'm always wanting to move around. So I feel it. Do you find it hard just sitting here talking about this?
For sure. I made sure I'm like sitting close, like I can't get up, I can't accidentally, kick my legs. So yeah, for sure.
That's funny. And Kimberly, same question for you too.
I think the four of us seem to have that in common. So I tend to stand or walking pad, and quite frankly, I'm pretty good at focusing when I'm doing that. And when I sit for too long, that actually gets distracting for me. So very similar to Erin, I think if I need a reset or want to reset, moving away from where I'm working is really helpful for me, right? And if that is going outside, I live on the water now, so taking a moment to just go outside and look at the world, even if I'm mentally still thinking about something or resetting it, just changing up my environment is really helpful to kind of re-pull back in and center and take away some of the distractions that are around us.
Coming back, getting back to nature a little bit. It's amazing just looking outside for even a minute, how it can just reset things. That the world is a really big place, so your problems are really kind of small, right? So, Kimberly, I'll start with you and Erin, same question, back to the podcast. So, how do you know when you're truly showing up as the leader your team needs, not the leader the role expects?
That's a really great and interesting question. I think that core to leadership is being in tune and listening to where the other person is coming from or the other responsibility is coming from, regardless of if it is a peer, another leader, or somebody on the team, to really understand the context of the conversation, discussion, or ask, and then working to marry that, right? Versus, I think we all by nature come with our own biases into conversations and project, I think this is what Freddie is going to be saying or what he's going to need to say or what he's going to need from me. But taking that pause and listening and, verbally confirming it. I do this a lot. It's probably very annoying to people that are in meetings with me, where I summarize, right? I summarize an understanding and try to do it in a very unbiased way to do that check-in and make sure that we're on that page and then move forward from there in a way more collaborative type of environment.
You're the one in the meeting that says, so let me just repeat your actual question so I'm fully understanding it. And I'm going, dang it, what did I not say right? So yeah, I'm not the annoyed person, but I'm like the one that's always like, okay, yes, because I feel like I just butchered what I'm trying to say. And then you come in hearing it, putting it into another flavor. And I feel like when everyone else gets that, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because sometimes when you're in that moment, you're trying to like say something, it doesn't always come out the way you want it to. So I do appreciate the people like you, Kimberly.
And to that point, a lot of people have a deep expertise in things that I don't have and that Erin doesn't have and that Jessica doesn't have. So then if we're kind of asking for that, it really helps flesh it out, I think, across the board.
I was going to say, to jump in along those same lines, right? We all inherently have tasks that we need to do, goals that we need to hit, responsibilities to accomplish. And I think there's a little bit of a fine line between dictating to your team what they need to do and how they need to do it versus explaining this is where we need to get to, right? And I might have a direction and perspective on how I think we need to get there, but at the end of the day, I can tell when my team's on board with where we're going, when they're engaged and they're having a conversation about it, and we most likely pivot where we initially thought we were going to go versus how we end up getting there. And so that's when I kind of love seeing the entire team come together and know that we accomplished it as a group versus an individual did the task and everyone kind of checked the box. So that engagement, I think, is really what defines the level of teamwork and commitment that comes through.
And even just like the fact of you can feel when your team isn't aligned. So I just love the fact that you mentioned about that flexibility, that engagement, because when you have that, everything just seems to be running smooth. And when it's not running smooth, you're like, okay, I need to pivot a little bit and let's figure out a different game plan or a different approach to get everybody on board.
Yeah, for sure. And it happens, right? Like, especially depending on the size and scope of it, there's going to be points in time that it does feel very transactional and everyone's just running, trying to get it done. But then there's other times, right, where you have an opportunity to maybe be a little bit more introspective on how we're doing it. Should we do things differently? And so, yeah, I really love when my team shows up and has an opinion, especially when it varies from mine, right? Because that usually ends up getting us to where we need to go.
Very spot on. I love that. Okay, fun question. What is your favorite part of your workday? And Erin, we'll start with you. Your favorite part of your workday?
Favorite part of the workday, and this is going to probably sound a little crazy and off, but is the very early beginning part of the day when not enough people are on and I have a chance to actually be present in my inbox or follow up on a handful of things. And so I try to come online early in the morning, get work done for an hour or so, and then recalibrate, right? Make sure my kids are off to school and, the dogs are outside and whatever needs to happen before everyone kind of comes online and the chaos ensues.
I am like that person to a T. I would much rather get up early, get things organized, and I'm like at the end of the day my brain's shot. I just want to like not work and just decompress. So I'm definitely a morning person like that too. Yep. And how about Kimberly for you? What's your favorite part of your workday?
I do like the uninterrupted time, but I'll go a little different. The favorite part of my workday is the first 30 or 60 seconds before the meeting kicks off when we're having time to connect with our teams, right? Today we talked about, hey, the Masters yesterday or what people did on the weekend, or we can call somebody out for something that they've done. I think, especially in a virtual world, it's easy not to have those types of connects. It's harder to have them. And so by taking that moment, I'm very self-deprecating too. I'm the first to make, a joke about myself and have everybody smile at it. I don't mind that at all. But I think there's a couple of seconds where you can actually make a connection with whomever it is you're speaking with.
I love that. I'm the same way. Where do you like not like awkward silences in the meeting too? So like you feel like you have to fill them or ask the question or
I actually don't mind, right, a strategic awkward silence and putting something out there and letting people. I don't mind that at all. I'm pretty comfortable with uncomfortableness as well. The upfront was really just about getting everybody connected and reminding everybody we're all on the same team. We're all people. We all hopefully did something over the weekend that was put a smile on our face, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're all people. I love that. Okay, how about for a leadership question? How do you get leaders across different teams on the same page so both the customers and the employees feel the same values everywhere? So you both have very interesting perspectives, being the customer service and the HR internal. How do you make sure like that everybody feels the same across the board with your guys' values at your company? And Erin, we'll start with you on that question.
Great. Yeah, I think Kimberly touched upon it a little bit earlier, but it's the what's in it for me, right? It's not just kind of assigning the task and everyone has something to do to get us collectively there, but what's the purpose behind it? And usually once we can help describe and explain the reason why we're doing what we're doing, that's when everyone's brains kind of engage, right? And they say, well, this is how I can show up with my team and what we can contribute to help get us there. And then what those outcomes are going to actually result in. And that's the second, probably bigger part is, right? Not just understanding why we're doing it, but then what will this allow to happen, right? And it's going to be beneficial for our employees, right? More training, more engagement, more knowledge, more career growth. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on. But once that's kind of better understood, it usually allows each department across multiple teams to start showing up and being able to support each other with their own span of knowledge.
I love that collaborative why on you're doing something as a company, and then each department can even offer their own insights and expertise. Very nice. Kimberly, how about you for that question? So how do you get leaders across different teams on the same page?
Yeah. So building on what Erin said, I think there's two strategies that we've used pretty successfully. One, and they're both having to do with reframing what we're talking about. The first part of reframing is encouraging everyone to have a customer-centric mindset. So if we have a problem we're trying to solve, let's think about it from the lens of our customer and solve it from that perspective. And it takes some of the defensiveness potentially out of the conversation, right? Not, we need to do it this way because of the software, because of this, and just, well, is that the best thing for our customers? And let's take that out. Everyone can usually rally around that point that that's not the best. And then the second question is, what would need to be true for this to be successful in a different way? And again, that takes a little bit of the solutions forward that people might negatively react to, and think about really collaboratively, what are the challenges we need to solve in order to make this a better experience?
And do you always start with the customers or first? Like, did you put that in order? And center around your customers before what are we doing this for? Like the true meaning behind it. Do you always make sure that customers are always focused on first?
It's yes, I really try to. I think it's a really powerful conversation, and if we look at just even trends, right? Customer experience is the new marketing, right? And if it's not for our customers, we have nothing really. So, and everyone can pretty well align around, well, if I was the customer, would that be a good experience for me or a bad experience for me? What I've learned in doing several years of the part of my role is around continuous improvements and root cause resolution is almost without fail, when we do it from the customer lens married with data, that those improvements that translate for a better customer experience translate to a better internal team's experience and translate to real business results. So yes, by taking the customer first, we're usually pretty successful.
That's the reason I ask it is I had to write a forward, and my very first forward for somebody's book, which is super. I'm so honored and humble to do it, and it's coming in the industry, so it'll be out here shortly. I can't ruin anything, but we all serve this industry for one reason. That's people. Like, no matter what you're doing, it's always for someone, and the whole book kind of centers around that. And it was like, I've worked at my company for over 2 decades, and it's always been people, whether it's your coworkers, whether it's your customers, whether it's their customer experience. It's just everything we do is centered around people. So it's always fun to hear that from a perspective of other people. So thank you for sharing that. That's very exciting. Thank you. All right. So back to me. I got a fun question, and I'll start with you, Kimberly. What's something most people would be surprised to learn about you outside of work? If you got to take some time to think about this, I want to make sure it's rated for our viewers.
I don't. I can answer that. I'm a boat captain, so I
Oh my goodness, that's
I live
crazy.
on the water. Yeah, I live on the water. My parents have been next door where I live since the 80s. I've been here for 20 years. And we've always had boats, and I am a boat captain. I have a pontoon boat, and my early morning reset or my end of day reset is even just 15 minutes on the boat. Almost every day, if the weather's good, I get it out.
That's so crazy. Yeah, I did not know that either. That's fun. Hopefully our viewers have the same reaction as we had. And Erin, what's something that our viewers would be surprised to learn about you outside of work?
Well, I have played soccer my whole life, and I actually still play. So I got the opportunity to play through college, took a couple breaks when I had my two kids, but I'm still out there almost year round, play indoors on a couple different co-ed teams, and outdoors just started yesterday. So it's a
Well,
good reminder that being indoor soccer shape is very different than outdoor soccer shape, but it's a lot of
any
fun.
any any bad injuries playing soccer all those years?
Miraculously, not when it mattered. I stayed healthy through my collegiate years,
Yep.
and I did manage to break my nose about a week and a half before I was in my friend's wedding. So the makeup artist had a really tough job to cover up my two black eyes when I was in the
Oh
wedding.
no.
Oh wow. There's pictures out there to prove all this story, I'm guessing too.
For sure, for
That's
sure.
fun. So back to the podcast. So we're going to talk about culture a little bit. We're going to shift the gears a little bit. So culture gets talked about quite a bit. And what's one concrete action leaders can make? I'm sorry. What's one concrete action leaders can take to make culture something that people feel and not just hear about? So I'll read that again because I kind of butchered it. Culture gets talked about a lot. What's one concrete action leaders can take to make culture feel something people feel and not just hear about? And we'll start with you, Erin.
So I think it's really important, and I know I feel like we keep using some same keywords here, but that level of engagement and trust within your team. And it's not something that can kind of be bought or just spoken to. It's something that builds over time. And once you have that established, I think your team shows up differently for you, and you show up differently for your team because you're much more willing to be open and vulnerable and willing to make mistakes. And that's really how we learn. And so I really try to lead by example by staying accountable, right? Like I am the first to admit that I make mistakes too, and we figure it out. Or if something does happen, I'm pretty sure my first response is always, that's okay, let's figure it out, and we'll fix this, right? And so showing up that way with the team really helps them as they interact with others too, because I hope that that's how they continue to show up for others in that same way, where there's a high level of accountability and knowledge that we will figure it out and become better together.
I hope everyone hears that. Failure isn't a stopping point. It's what did we do that didn't work, but what can we do to make it work? And it's then I love how you said that's okay. It didn't work out this time. Reassuring your team there's other ways to get around this. I love that. And Kimberly, same question for you. And I can repeat it again, but I might butcher it a third time unless you
I,
unless you got it.
no, I
Everybody
won't.
makes mistakes, Freddie.
Yeah, that's okay, Freddie.
Right, right. This is okay. This is a safe space to make a mistake and try again, for sure. Lead by example was the first thing that came to my mind when you said that, right? It's one thing, and we all may or may not have had a leader in our life that had one thing they were saying and another thing that was embodied in their actions, and that creates confusion and takes away clarity with teams. I think by setting the expectations and deciding what kind of culture you want to have within a team, and my team, there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of insights and things like that, and then leading by that. And I think Erin said it brilliantly, which was, and then when something goes off the rails a little, that should be okay, right? Let's learn from that and move forward. And I think that really creates a foundation of trust. I think trust is really important on our teams, that we can get aligned towards an outcome, but also really have trust within the team that we're working for it together.
Amazing. Yeah, leading by example, that's such a key to everything too. When you don't have that foundation of trust, it's very, very hard to gain it and very easy to lose it. Have you guys ever been in an example of where somebody has lost that trust, and how do you gain it back?
I mean, I've definitely worked in an environment where it didn't inherently exist, and it only existed in pockets. And it was really tricky to advance essentially the needs of the business because not everyone was working together, and there was a kind of a concern of, will this come back and bite me, right? Like, is this person going to show up? And so it took a little bit of time, but through some looking backwards, almost sharing from the story of how we started and how we ended up, right? Like, here are some areas where we kind of sidestepped. Here's how can we think about this differently, and getting the team to be engaged in that versus just being told, Freddie, this is what you did wrong. Jessica, this is what you did wrong, right? Like, it made it so they all kind of had a little bit of a reflection to be able to say, okay, I see how that came across differently than I intended. And by kind of doing that look back, with the entire team involved, it gave them to the opportunity to see, oh, okay, I realized they didn't intend that. That's just how I interpreted it. And so again, it didn't happen overnight, but by doing that a few times, it got them significantly closer, and then it allowed them to start showing up differently for each other.
For sure, that self-reflection inside there. Thanks, Erin.
And I think losing trust becomes just core and foundational to potentially really degrading the team, right? And developing kind of some really unhealthy habits, right? That don't keep folks aligned. And the opportunity there is to take a moment and recalibrate and root cause, kind of figure out what was the thing that kind of contributed more to going off the rails. Most of the time, it's not a bad intention, right? It wasn't intentional. It was something that was just misaligned. And then if you focus on what was it, and how do we prevent it from doing the same thing moving forward? And again, back to leading by example, and then making sure that we're supporting that, right? We are not replicating errors and processes that led to mistrust because we haven't been intentional about solving them.
Yes, it's not the let's just brush it under the rug and hope nobody asks us again in the future.
Correct.
It's the
Correct.
looking back and saying, how do we make it better?
Yeah.
The rug gets kind of bumpy after a while if you keep doing that.
Freddie's out there, they're whacking away at the rug.
They're smashing it down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, my last fun question for you guys. What is your go-to comfort food after a long day? Kimberly, we'll start with you.
Oh gosh. I'm a pretty healthy eater. So honestly, something that's got greens and proteins. I know that's not exciting or sounds like comforting, but it makes me feel good, right? And I enjoy that versus kind of like, right? Like now I've eaten this whole pizza and I don't feel well. That being said, I am not opposed to a glass of wine as well every now and then.
Love that. Thanks, Kimberly. Erin, how about you? What's your go-to comfort food after a long day?
Yep, I was ready to come out of the gates, call a spade a spade. It's the glass of wine with a little charcuterie, right? Little making up the little board. And again, I think just putting in the work to do that and kind of creating something, it allows your brain to kind of just turn off a little bit and just be in the moment. So that seems to do the trick.
I love that, kind of shifting gears and taking a step back to make your little charcuterie board. Amazing. Okay, my last leadership question for you guys is about change. So change to people can be very uncomfortable. How do you help leaders stay grounded when the team or the customers feel kind of that uncertainty about change that a company is going through? Erin, we'll go ahead and start with you on that question.
And so I think it's a little bit of a different answer for everyone. And I think if you try to peanut butter spread it, that's where sometimes it doesn't work because we're all different, right? And we all need different things and we all think differently. And so I think having a little bit of a broader range of how we're going to get there, right? We're going to get there by educating our teams, making sure they understand the whys, that you have the tools and you're prepared to have these conversations. I think a lot of times we expect our leaders to just do what needs to be done, right? And we're very focused on our frontline employees, which while is extremely important, it's equally important that we're equipping our leaders with the tools to be able to have tough conversations and how to recognize their teams and how to celebrate wins and successes. And so being able to kind of provide that little bit more holistic toolkit, and trust me, I know it's way easier to just say and throw out a few ideas in the moment versus kind of really building it. But I think the most success happens when you can offer that entire toolkit, because then each person can kind of pick and choose what they need in the moment and bring it to life.
I love how you mentioned you need to equip our leaders. It's kind of like from the top down that kind of funnels everywhere throughout your guys' company. And I also love that you mentioned celebrating wins. That is a common thread a lot with all these podcasts, is that you guys need to celebrate wins. Whoever's listening to this, be excited when it comes to change. Like, keep celebrating those wins no matter how small it is. So I'm very glad that you highlighted that. So thank you. Kimberly, how about yourself for change being uncomfortable, and how do you help those leaders stay grounded to navigate through that?
Yeah, this is a great question. And when you have teams in an organization, what Erin said, everyone is coming from a different starting point with this. I personally am I'm very comfortable in the uncomfortable. And so it's not a place that causing me a lot of anxiety. But I've had team members, employees or other team members or peers that, get stuck, right? They don't know which way to go because they're not sure what's going to happen. Part of it comes back to, almost the beginning of the conversation, which is having some type of, clarity of purpose and aligned goals that we're working towards, and keeping the teams focused and understanding the why. We were saying this all across the way, right? And that helps. All right, maybe we don't know what this is going to look like in a month or 6 months or a year, but we understand what we're doing today to move us in that direction, and aligning that across the organization. The messaging might be a little bit different as to what someone's actually doing on a day-to-day basis, but getting people more comfortable with, the end point we can align around and how we're going to get there. And here are some of the specific things that we can do along that to be successful, and also getting the feedback on where was there a miss that we can then fill that in, right? And I feel like if it's a miss for one person, they might be the only person raising their hand to ask the question, but there might be 2 or 3 more. This is internal customers or actual, external customers that are experiencing it, that we can then pivot and correct for. So not being afraid to change how we're supporting any of the populations.
Clarity and feedback. You can't go wrong with those two when you're dealing with change at all. And what was missed and how do we win? I'm going to echo what Jess said and you guys said about celebrating wins too. And I actually circled one of you, I don't know who it was, said group wins. That was the first time I've heard of a group win. And I mean, I know what they are, but everybody always says celebrate your small wins because they matter. But people forget sometimes if it's a group win, everyone should be celebrating. And back in the podcast, you said, the 30 to 60 seconds before virtual meetings start, that's where you kind of let loose a little bit, tell stories. That's another great time to say we're about to come into a meeting, good or bad, but that's a great time to celebrate what we've accomplished so far and where we feel we're growing and where we're getting to where we want to be before the meeting starts, because you're almost going into the meeting then in a positive attitude. So it's kind of funny. It's all kind of coming together, this entire podcast. It's all these little bits and pieces are making just a wonderful painting. I have just one more question because I want to talk about this a little bit. And it's about mentorship. And the reason I talk about mentorship is the Women Propane have the knowledge exchange. To learn more, www.womenpropane.org, and check it all out. But mentors are a huge thing in the industry, right? And so my last question is, what's the most valuable feedback you've received as a leader from a mentor that you had?
So I think some of the most valuable feedback has been around being authentic and being your authentic self and leading forward with the authenticity that are, no matter if you're a leader of people, if you're a leader, an individual contributor can be a leader, right? But I think that resonates across people when they understand that you're being an authentic leader and having integrity in the things that we're doing, right? And that's can be tough, but in the tough times when we need that integrity the most. So those are some of the things that have really resonated with me from mentors that I've had in the past. And what's interesting to me when I reflect on those, it's not as much about go develop this particular skill. It's more about go develop how to interact with people in a successful way.
I love it. Authenticity. That's I forgot the saying, and it'll probably come to me after the podcast, but it's something in the lines of like, show up as be yourself in a project versus what the project is making you do, or I forget the whole thing, but basically be the person you want to be, not the person you're supposed to be. And every time I think of someone being authentic, I think of that, like, bring value that only you can bring to anything in life, and not what you're supposed to bring to the table. And Erin, same question for you. What's the most valuable feedback that you've received as a leader from a mentor?
Yeah, I think some of it, and it's not necessarily the spoken word, but it's how you show up. And I've had a lot of opportunities to work with some pretty phenomenal people who have proven not by what they say, but what they do, right? And it's walking the walk and talking the talk. And I can think back to one of my first jobs where I was a basic entry level person that answered phones, right? And the president of the company walked by and heard my phone ringing. And he picked it up and he said, "Erin Walls' line, how can I help you?" And I was like floored, but to him, and he would tell anyone, right? Like, our customers are our number one priority and we're going to pick up the phone. And so the fact that like, and he didn't do it because people were watching or anything, but like, it was just a perfect example of like, if it's important and you say it's important, then you need to practice what you preach. And so that always just kind of resonated with me. And I hope my team sees too, right? Like, I would never ask them to do things that I wouldn't be ready to be locked arm in arm with them on the front line and doing it with them and supporting them. And so, so maybe not a direct kind of quote or feedback, but I think it's just really important that we show up for our teams in the capacity that we want them to show up.
Yeah, if I could just add one more thing, that when Erin was talking, I think this goes to what we both just said, is there's a saying, right? Leaders eat last, right? And that really is embodying the idea of supporting your teams first and being there and finding that fit so that they can succeed and they can be most successful. And that translates to customer success and business success. So you take care of our teams, they take care of the customers, results will follow.
You guys gave me the goosebumps. Like, that is the best piece of advice I feel like I have ever heard, is be yourself, be authentic, walk the walk, talk the talk, and you will just be fine in life. I love that.
And eat last. And eat last.
I do have that book. Have you guys read that? The Leaders Eat Last. It is a book. Yeah, it resonated so much with me. So I'm really glad that you highlighted that. Thanks, you guys, for spending time with us today and sharing your great insights and being your authentic selves. We loved the conversation, the laughs, and the real-world leadership perspective you brought to the table. It's been so fun having you on Through the Leadership Lens. Thank you again for joining us.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast proudly presented by the Women Propane Council.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, download, and share it with a friend or colleague.
And if you want to learn more about Women in Propane, connect with us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram,
or visit us online at www.womeninpropane.org.
I'm Freddie Ridler.
And I'm Jessica Balderston. Thanks for listening.
And keep leading with purpose and vision.